So we did talk about this spiritual restlessness. It propels you towards the soul's true purpose to grow and evolve. See, this in Sanskrit terms, there is a word called mumukshutva. What is mumukshu means? The eagerness or restlessness to attain moksha. That is the real purport, our real meaning of that word, mumukshatva. The same thing we are talking about, the spiritual restlessness. But how do you, just like that, have this restlessness? It's impossible. Even just because the guru is telling you you should have the spiritual restlessness, you cannot just develop it mentally. You cannot psych yourself to develop that restlessness, right? See, they give this example, like one disciple goes to the guru in somewhere in Kashi and says, I am here for the godly knowledge, the Brahmagyan, the spiritual knowledge. So the guru takes him to the river, and while bathing, the guru pushes the head of the disciple down into the water and he holds it tight. And the disciple is like struggling to get out of the water. And then finally he releases the hand and the disciple comes out and says, are you trying to kill me? Says, okay, when I pushed you under the water, how desperate are you to get out of the water? He says, I was really desperate to get out of the water because I'm going to die. And the guru says, do you have the same interest to gain the spiritual knowledge? Then come to me when you have that level of interest. That is not a right guru, but that's the story. Okay. So, but if there are two points, we can deduce from this scenario, right? So when the student is pushed under the water, he's gasping for the breath. The physical need has kicked in. Because of that physical need, he wants to, because breath is the physical need. Without breathing, we cannot live. So the physical need is kicking in. If I am hungry, the physical need is kicking in. For many things, the physical need is kicking in. So when the physical needs are fulfilled, then we are jumping into what is called intellectual need, intellectual appetite. So we have to understand this world we live in. Each one has their own world. And they have to deal with the world. The needs of this world, the intellectual needs are differ from person to person. And those needs have to be fulfilled. And then we are longing to fulfill those needs. See, suppose if I have a good earnings, the good earnings not only fulfills my physical needs, but also fulfills the intellectual needs. If I have good earnings, I'll have time to read something, I have to watch something. So there is at some level, I'm fulfilling the intellectual needs. But as these needs are becoming, from one level to another level, then there are needs of the consciousness and then the needs of the soul. By the time we reach the soul, it's almost subtle. And it is so subtle that we don't recognize it like a hunger. Correct? So when I cannot recognize it, how do you think I will have restlessness to seek it, to have it? So that's the challenge. So how do we address that challenge in heartfulness? That's why this heartfulness becomes a very unique system. What I have seen, I have personally practiced other systems. No disregard or any disrespect for other systems. Every system takes you to a certain level. There is anything you do, even if I do the wrong things, it takes you to a certain state. You do the right things, it takes you to a certain state. Everything has a result. But what heartfulness is doing is, because of this pranahuti, pranasya prana, the transmission, yogic energy, It gives us the state of that highest state, that liberation, the state of liberation, moksha, or the state of mergence, yoga, happens through this transmission. Every transmission, it happens. Every meditation, it happens. So every time you go with the transmission into meditation, somehow at the soul level, though you acknowledge it, though whether you recognize it or not, the soul recognizes it. It feels it. It knows this is what is fulfilling my needs. When that fulfillment happens, automatically at a most inner level, you know this is the right thing to do. You know that this is what my soul has been seeking all along. And you come back again and again. So slowly, surely, the spiritual restlessness develops. Otherwise, to create this restlessness, we basically have to emotionally create it. And the other name for that emotion we have is bhakti. So what's happening is, in a most of the systems, either guru becomes an emotion state, or a deity, a representation becomes an emotional state, and people are trying to fulfill that emotional state again and again and again. It becomes almost like a uh, habit, and there also is a restlessness, right? But restlessness for what? It is not the restlessness at the soul level. It is the restlessness at a mostly a mental level again. So that restlessness is brought down to mental and physical and emotional state. And that's about it. And they're happy about it. You cannot tell them, boss, or my dear brother, sister, there is more to it. Look for more. They'll say, no, there is nothing more than this. It's difficult to even convince them that they can experience something more than that. Because even being here for 30 years now in heartfulness, I cannot really tell you what I've experienced, right? Because it is the most subtlest thing one can even put it into words. But yet, it is the need of the soul. So, when I fulfill all my needs, then there is a balance in life. Even if one need is not fulfilled, there is no balance in life. So, that is why the spiritual systems, all spiritual systems have said, cut down your needs to the minimum to bring balance in your life. That's why this whole desirelessness is spoken about, not because it is wrong to have any desire, but to have the balance, bring it down to the minimum. Minimum possible. What is that minimum? Each individual has to decide. There's no guidelines over there. Okay, do not drink coffee in the morning. Nothing like that. There are no don'ts. You decide what is causing, taking most of your energy, and yet you're not fulfilled, then cut it out. If something is fulfilled, then keep it. If something is not fulfilled, cut it out, because you know that you're spending a lot of energy towards it, yet it's not happening in your life. And that should be taken out of your equation. So that's why, so that there is a balance is restored. But there is physical needs which I cannot really cut it out. I cannot stop having water. I cannot stop breathing. I cannot stop having food. So wherever there is a nourishment, there is absolute needs. So, I mean, we have to fulfill those absolute needs. Any need which is not fulfilled takes you out of balance. It's as simple as it is. Any need which is not fulfilled takes you out of balance. If I don't take water for a day, I'm out of balance. How do you restore the balance? Have water. So this out of balance which happened because the spiritual restlessness, which is so subtle we don't realize it, is not fulfilled. In some level, we are all out of balance. And it shows in our life. Our life situations won't align. Our physical situations won't align. Our mental situations won't align because of the spiritual restlessness which is not being fulfilled. When it is fulfilled, you will see there is an enormous change in your approach to life. You approach with the contentment, not with the restlessness. But this restlessness, what the Babuji, or Daji, what he's talking about is, once you have the taste for it, you long it, you know where to fulfill it. You know how to fulfill it through meditation, you know that it will be fulfilled. So every time there is inner need which prompts me to meditate, because this spiritual restlessness is coming to your awareness. Once it is fulfilled, it will come to your awareness. Otherwise, that awareness is also not there. Awareness is there at some level, and you are trying to fulfill by doing things more at the intellectual level and emotional level. All the passions we have, all the need, some need we are always feeling, that is nothing but a spiritual restlessness. When it is fulfilled, there is a different state of contentment comes into our existence. We can only experience and say, yeah, there is something changed. So I think this kind of takes the topic to the end. So before we start on the other topic, any comments, questions? Okay. So let's move to the next topic.
One question.
Yeah.
So when we are restlessness and when we move to the next level, which is contentment,
Yeah.
you won't stay there for long, right? You start again looking for the next level. So you start experiencing the restlessness again.
Yes.
And then just keep on building.
Yes. So the question is, it's not like even when you are in contentment, you are in contentment forever, right? It is not possible. Because this spiritual journey is infinity. Now the soul is automatically, the inner self is automatically looking for that next level. I quoted this so many times when Jagjit Singh's ghazal. He says, the meaning of the ghazal is, you are close to my heart, but yet there is some distance. And that distance is unbearable. So the mergence, the yoga, which the soul is uh, looking for or seeking, once it knows the direction, it is seeking all the time. And so once this transmission, it reaches its content state, but again it is seeking more. So the seeking more is the quality of the soul, it is not the human quality. Even animals, everything is seeking more to a level it is aware. If you are aware that money brings you power, money brings you this, you are seeking money all the time. Because it's not the money you are seeking, it is what the money brings to you is what you are seeking. So the seeking is continuous at every level. If I'm thirsty today, I take water. Next hour, I am thirsty again. I have to take water again, even at a physical level. So all needs up to the soul are continuous. It's not like once you have it, it's the end of it. But you have to know it, right? First, suppose if I want to have an ice cream, I have to eat ice cream at least once before I say I want ice cream. So similarly, once this transmission is received, we seek it again and again. That is what in our terms, the remembrance is. Remembrance is remembering that experience and seeking it again. Suppose if I want to eat the ice cream, I don't think of the ice cream after I buy the ice cream. I'll taste it in my mind before even I got it, right? Before I realize it. So same thing here also. As the more and more you seek, the more and more you become. So here at the soul level, it is becoming. Below soul level is all acquiring. So that's why in spirituality is all about becoming, because it cannot acquire. It cannot acquire that which it already has. So that is the beauty here. It is already has it. Its only thing is that awareness channel is opening up through the transmission. So that's why here it is becoming means realizing. Below it is all acquiring. That's why at an intellectual level, most of the systems, oh, you read the scriptures, read this, read that. There's no ending, right? There are so many scriptures to read. So there it is seeking almost at an intellectual level. So there the knowledge, the so-called knowledge, jnana, becomes acquiring rather than becoming, right? Because it's at the intellectual level. It's not at the level of the Atman, soul. Correct. Okay, good. Thanks for asking that question. Now, humility. I'll take only 4 minutes on this. Then we can start meditation. Humility is the most sublimated state of ego. Humility is not flattery or servility. So this is something important. Humility is not servility, means you're not bowing down to something. Instead, humility is a sign of great self-awareness. When you are aware of smallness in front of a much bigger ideal, such awareness gives you a feeling of insignificance that helps you grow. There is at certain levels, spiritual states, what, Babaji has experienced and felt, and he put it down is in journal, is that feeling the state of insignificance. The state of feeling insignificance happens when you recognize that infinity in front of you. See, right? I mean, if you, for example, if you go to a planetarium and they show this entire galaxies, universes, and then they'll show you Earth as a even tiniest spot in that entire galaxy, the Earth becomes almost insignificant. But now you come down to the ground level, Earth is the biggest thing you know, or physically you can touch and feel. So this is the kind of insignificance it is talking about. Oh, I am nothing, I am, in front of God, nothing of that sort. That's not, it's just the mere words. There is no experience there. Here, becoming insignificant happens as a spiritual state, not because you think about as insignificant. It is because of that spiritual state, the infinity you feel in front of you, you feel insignificant. So it's a different state. It is not that, oh, humility means I have to become insignificant. But at this level, I'll tell you, this is my own experience. Humility is where you accept, you acknowledge the entity before you, and you acknowledge the entity inside you. What it means is, so whenever I meet a person, we see this, in Indian tradition, we have this greeting, namaste. I think it is first time explained by Deepak Chopra. He said, namaste really means, I see you the way I see myself. So that is the humility I can say at a at least awareness level, conscious level, intellectual level. If I can bring that level of humility, is a good enough to begin with. Correct? And when Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, the guru of the Vivekananda, when Vivekananda says, goes and asks him, have you seen God? And Ramakrishna Paramahamsa says, I see God as I see you. So then, suddenly everybody, all the disciples say, oh, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa has seen God. And whereas it's so vindicating from the scriptures that God cannot be seen, God cannot be felt, God cannot be known. And yet, here is the guy seeing, I see the God as I see you. Basically, he's saying, I acknowledge that element of God everywhere. It's a more of an acknowledgement than seeing, because it's not a physical being anyway. What is not physical, how do you see? With what eye do you see? So it is, the humility is more of witnessing the self. We start from there and then we reach the state of this insignificance. That is the culmination. So a humble person is respectful by nature and cultivates reverence in one's heart. And that's how our Vedas have started. In the Vedas, the nature, as they observe, the humans of the past, they saw these mountains. They could not explain the giant mountains, how they became so giants. Then the mountain, they said the mountain is the Deva. Anything they could not explain, they said, okay, it is a Deva, some higher natural energy or nature's power which created it, or it is the power itself. They could not explain the sun. Sun became the Deva, Surya Deva, the god, sun god, moon god. Anything they saw, they revered it as God because they could not explain. But slowly, but it is surely, it was a reverence for the nature around them. But as a human thought, they understood the nature, they started destroying it. They felt power over nature. Right? Now we started destroying it because now we lost that reverence. So humility is a reverence to anything, everything you touch and see or think about. So that is the humility one must develop. So humility attracts grace is another thing. So we have to, as we develop that reverence to everything and anything, we have to feel that. See, even in so-called story of Rama, when Ravana was about to die, he advises Lakshmana. He says Ravana is a Brahmagyani. He is the most knowledgeable person. You should go and learn the spiritual knowledge from him. He goes, Lakshmana obeys his brother and goes to, discusses with him, and that becomes the Lakshmana Gita. I think it should have been a Ravana Gita, but they didn't want to give the negative connotation to it, so it became a Lakshmana Gita. So the conversations between Ravana and Lakshmana. So all these things are there. So there is a reverence even, for everything. That is why Rama's character is so praised even after thousands of years. All right, so I'll stop here. Comments, questions, or we can start meditation. All right, so let's begin meditation.